What's up, you guys? Thank you for clicking on this video. So as you can tell by the title, this is not really a video series, but a type of videos on the channel that I have not done in close to a year now. It's probably been like 9-10 months. I did this video on Megatron and Optimus. It got quite a bit of attention on the channel. It got a little bit of controversy within the fandom on YouTube. A lot of people agreeing with me, a lot of people not agreeing with me. It was really split in the middle, and some people were taking my opinion a little too far and getting very angry and mean and name-calling in the comments. So hopefully we could keep this video and this comment section civil this time around, almost a year later, but I feel like the more time you let things breathe in society, the worse things get, so I'm ready for it all. As you can tell by the title, I will be looking at every basically major Generations Bumblebee release and just talking about how I don't really think we've had that definitive chug Bumblebee yet. And I'm going to give you guys examples as to why on every single major release. So let's start off with, this is kind of going in order, kind of, sort of. I may have things mixed up by months if there is multiple Bumblebees that came out in the same year or something. But generally, this is in order of release. So first up here, Classics 2006 Bumblebee. Now, this is a really good figure. I'd say this may be the best out of the bunch, just in terms of play factor, engineering, plastic quality, overall look, honestly, especially for the time it came out in. Like, this figure is 19 years old. It's going to be 20 years old next year, and it's still a really good looking, really fun figure. Like, I really do want to track down the Cliff Jumper mold and stuff, so I definitely do feel like this is one of, if not the best of the bunch I'm going to talk about here. But the main thing with this is obviously the articulation. Has no ankle pivot, has no wrist swivel. You do have ball joints, even though that's not really a big deal. They still use ball joints a lot in like Studio Series figures. You know, it's still a little outdated. But outside of the articulation, still a good figure, but obviously because of the articulation, it doesn't really make it the best. Next up here, we go quite a few years in the Generations line without getting a brand new mold for Bumblebee, surprisingly. It's a long way from 2006. We go 8 years later without a brand new mold until 2014 with Thrilling 30. We have the deluxe class IDW Bumblebee along with the Goldfire remold / repaint. But I'm not going to be talking about Goldbug because that's not Bumblebee. But the Bumblebee version here, I've had this figure. It's pretty good. It's not pretty good. It's okay. It's definitely a lot worse than Classics Bumblebee, just in terms of engineering and plastic quality. You get a lot more hollowness. You get less going on just in general with the figure, I'd say. The paint and details aren't that good looking. You know, it's kind of just a dark time, or we were entering that dark time with Generations collector figures at this time. Like, it started around like 2013 and ended around 2018, 2019. And you could argue we're kind of in a dark time for Transformers figures now in the last year if we're talking about like QC and price increases. But yeah, this Bumblebee here, it's really lacking in terms of just overall quality and engineering and build, in my opinion. So that doesn't really impress me at all. And then around the same time or a few months later, whatever, you get the Legends class Bumblebee from Thrilling 30. It was like a mix of the IDW design and the War for Cybertron game design, because that comic mixed the two. So you get this figure here that's based off of that comic design, and it's good looking. You know, the transformation is okay. Did I call this Legends class? I think it's Scout class, because it comes with the Target Master, which was a decent accessory too. But the articulation, horrible. Has no head movement, no wrist swivel, no ankle tilt, no thigh swivel, no waist swivel. So it's a couple joints missing away from being a brick, honestly. But it looks good. The car mode is good. But the articulation is just horrible, and he's a little too small too for being a scout class. He should be slightly taller than what this version of Bumblebee is. So yeah, not the greatest figure. From 2014, you go into, I think this was 2016, maybe 2017. So 2-3 years later, we go without getting a brand new Bumblebee in Generations, which is, again, surprising because we're still in the height of the Bayverse era a little bit. You know, you got AoE in The Last Knight. In Titan's Return, you get the, what was this, Scout, was it called Scout class or was it called Legends class? I can't remember, but you get around that size class of a Bumblebee here. And it was a decent figure for the time. It was a little bit better than the previous Scout class Bumblebee you got in Thrilling 30. And maybe in terms of just the type of Bumblebee you want, better than the Deluxe Thrilling 30. Not on par with the Classics one, I'd say. You know, the arms look horrible. You got the windows just jutting out. You got like pins, or was that screws? I can't remember. Like showing through the upper part of his wrists, which looks very ugly, especially if you do toy photography or stop motions and you want things to look clean and crisp. That looks terrible. The vehicle mode was decent, though. I think that was a nice little modern representation of like the Volkswagen, but not being a Volkswagen, you know. But overall, just not really the greatest looking robot mode, and the articulation really isn't that good. So for a definitive Bumblebee in your collection for Generations, for adult collectors, again, not really the greatest. You wait another few years. It's kind of odd because, like, in the mainline collector stuff for the movies, you get a Bumblebee figure virtually every single year, and multiples of them, especially during the height of the Bayverse. But with Generations, when you're talking about the cartoons and the comic side of things for the collector line, you wait kind of a little while for Bumblebee updates and figures in general. We have the Core Class one that came with Spike. That was a Buzzworthy exclusive. Kind of a random drop. I don't think Hasbro really ever officially revealed this. It kind of just dropped randomly. Images leaked, I think, if I remember correctly. And it was pretty easy to find, like a lot of the Buzzworthy exclusives. And as a figure, I do think this is the best, like, Scout class type Bumblebee that we've gotten in the Generations line. It's still not really what you would want for, like, a definitive Bumblebee on your collector Generations shelf. A lot of the core details just get washed out by the cheapness of Core Class. The articulation is decent. That Spike figure is not good, though. And the pistol it comes with is not good looking. The vehicle mode is more so for, like, I think it's bumper. So I don't know if they're planning on doing a bumper at some point. I mean, this mold is already 4 years old, and we don't have the arguably better suited character for this mold, which is kind of odd. But if you guys like this Bumblebee in terms of articulation, it's got that going for it. But honestly, I would not pick this figure up. It just doesn't look that great in terms of the details. The vehicle mode is wrong for this Bumblebee if you want something that's a bit more definitive for G1, because this is obviously a G1 Bumblebee. It looks like it was marketed kind of sort of for the SS86 line that started at the time with like Scourge and Hot Rod and stuff. So yeah, not really too good of a release there. A few months later, around the same time in the Buzzworthy Bumblebee subline, you get the Origins Saucer Bumblebee. And as a whole, the way they started Buzzworthy Bumblebee, it did make sense. And plus, you know, we didn't get a lot of Bumblebee figures over the years in the Chug line, so they were kind of making up for it with this subline here. But since its cancellation in the years following it, you can see why it was canceled, you know, overproduction, and it kind of really moving away from the core value of the name of the subline being Buzzworthy Bumblebee. So, but, you know, this Saucer Bumblebee, it was a good figure. I actually recently sold this. It was good for, I'd say, the saucer mode. But you get into the robot mode, and because of the design, because of how it was engineered, and how it was made in the original 84 cartoon, It's not a good robot mode. There's kibble everywhere. For what they were trying to do and what they had to work with, it was cool. Especially since you could remove pretty much all of the kibble. They were on regular mushroom pegs, so I think they were being very subconscious with that. They didn't want to pin anything in, and they left it to the option where you could take off all the kibble and have a clean, probably the most accurate and maybe the best robot mode once you take the kibble off. It's just not really a good circumstance for that because it's a saucer mode. It's not his earth mode from G1. You have to take off a bunch of kibble to do that. And you risk breaking the figure and the plastic because the more you transform it and take off those mushroom pegs, and a lot of those mushroom pegs were tight, especially like the kibble on the legs, that is a pain in the you-know-what to pull out and put back in if you want to transform it. So just not really a good circumstance in terms of having the good robot mode that we have here. So all in all, saucer mode, really nice. Robot mode, it's a real pain in the butt to get it to how you would kind of want it to be. And then you have the last Bumblebee figure in 2021. This was just a straight up repaint with, I can't remember if this was the same head or a new head. It's in this Worlds Collide 4-pack. And it's cool, especially, oh shoot, I forgot about the Walmart exclusive 2020 licensed Volkswagen Bumblebee. This 4-pack, this Bumblebee reminded me of that figure. I'm going to talk about that next. See, because of all these releases and everything, I just forget certain figures. So this figure, it's okay. I mean, the Cliffjumper mold is decent. I just think that the feet are way too oversized. They're horrible. And the overall transformation in the car mode, it's okay, but the backpack shield thing is just weird and horrible. And then you get those two huge pegs jutting out if you don't want to use it as a shield. So it just makes the inclusion of that piece ugly in general, and it just seems like it wasn't meant to be on the robot mode at all, and it was just a shield. So that part of the parts forming is really horrible, especially since this was a $22 figure, $20 figure at the time. Super small, and then you get that massive parts forming that makes up probably like 30-40% of the vehicle. That is ridiculous if you ask me. And the Volkswagen Bumblebee that came out a year before this 4-pack, that is good if you want the Volkswagen accurate licensed vehicle mode that we have been asking Hasbro for within the Generations line for the last at that time it was like 15 years or something since Classics started. So the vehicle mode is great, okay? You have that going for it. But again, it's based off of that Cliffjumper body mold. The same issues apply. The horrible looking backpack, the oversized feet. It's not really ideal. And then again, it comes with the rocket launcher. It doesn't come with Bumblebee's actual weapons. It comes with Cliffjumper's weapon from G1. So that doesn't really make sense. So you have probably the perfect vehicle mode, but the accessories in the robot mode are still not where it really needs to be called that definitive Bumblebee, like what we've gotten with SS86 Hot Rod or Optimus, just recently, the last few years. And then you go into animated Bumblebee. I think I prefer the mold on Wasp, just overall with the character and everything, along with the classics. And I'd say maybe the Saucer Bumblebee. This is probably the best in the Generations line for any of the Bumblebees that we've gotten. And also, I didn't talk about the War for Cybertron game Bumblebee molds in this video. I'm more so keeping it with like the G1 / cartoon comic stuff. The video game stuff is kind of counted separate for me, and plus that was more so in a gamer subline when those two figures were released. So I didn't really count those for the video. And the G1ification is okay. It's good. You know how I feel about this on the channel. I still think they haven't really nailed the G1ification of like Prime and animated characters, but they've gotten better since, what is it, 2022, but still not really where I think it should be. And the clear plastic for the midsection, absolutely horrible. It's super cheap. The weapons are decent. I do like those. The articulation is phenomenal. The overall look of him is pretty good outside of the G1ification of his design that I don't really think works for him. The vehicle mode is okay. It's kind of lacking in details and paint, if you ask me. It's missing some of those. But again, it's like this weird update for Bumblebee that's in the Chug line that doesn't really take from the actual aesthetic of the cartoon. So it's kind of just there. Like, that's how I feel about these, I wouldn't even say updates. They're just like reimaginings. They're kind of just there. People like them, but also a lot of people don't like them. So it's all just in what you prefer, but in terms of what I'm going for this video, it's really not something that gets that point across in terms of having the best definitive Bumblebee in the Generations line. It gets close in some areas, like articulation and the look for the robot mode, kinda, but it's just still lacking. This SS86 Bumblebee, I've said on the channel, if you guys remember, I'm not too big of a fan of this release either. This came out last year, and it's a little bit of an improvement over the Earthrise mold. I'll give it that. The feet are slightly smaller. I'd say the head sculpt and the colors are better. But again, the vehicle mode really isn't that good. I know it's like a reference to the Penny Racer, but if we're going for the movie design, that G1 design, and getting that definitive Bumblebee that we've gotten for most of the G1 line the last like 4 or 5 years, again, this does not hit the mark. And it looks cheap. It doesn't really... he's a lot chubbier in the midsection than recent Bumblebees the last few years, so that's kind of like a step back in a way. So yeah, I just don't really think that's something that really checks off all the boxes to me in this video for a definitive G1 Bumblebee. And, you know, I think we've gotten close with a few of the releases, like I've said, but I'm still waiting on that real nice Bumblebee release, like what we get with certain other characters the last few years in the G1 toy line. But yeah, guys, let me know down in the comments below. How do y'all feel about all these Generations Bumblebee releases over the last 19 years? Do you think there has been a definitive Bumblebee in the collector line, or do you not? And yeah, thank y'all for watching this video. Catch you guys in the next one. Bye!